Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And more manga has been pirated in dollars than the US sold in the Western comic book industry in all of 2020.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to wrap your head around. We're going to talk about piracy.
Yes, and you have to remember too that that's what was pirated, but what was paid for kicked the American Western comic book market's ass. And now the pirate, could you imagine if that stuff wasn't pirated, how much more it would have kicked its ass?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about manga piracy. It is an issue. Don't steal manga.
No, don't.
Because, you know, these creators, they're already kind of living hand to mouth as it is. They're putting in ridiculous hours. And I know there's been a lot of talk lately about, you know, some of these companies cracking down on piracy, but, you know, stuff's got to get paid for, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, a lot of you guys are creators yourselves. Would you want, if that's how you're making your money, would you want people to be taking your stuff?
No.
No.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about this, the ridiculous amount of money that has been lost thanks to piracy, according to the people who check those sorts of things. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, over 249,000 subs.
Yay!
Almost
So
250, almost 250,000. We're like 200 away from that.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, if you could hit the subscribe button, it'd be greatly appreciated. I have this pulled up because I've realized in the last, 3 trips to the comic shop, I haven't purchased a single Western comic book.
Nope.
I mean, Western created comic book, obviously I'm buying stuff from Viz, but like I've been coming home with all of these really thick hardcover manga volumes, and I love them, and it's the best value out there, I think.
The last ones I bought were the Demon Slayer box set, and I got the Oran High School Host Club box set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought those too because I got a good deal on the one. But I mean, we're buying more and more of this kind of thing, and we're not. When was the last time we bought a Western comic book? Did you buy one for Pinky Boo? No, it was a Gretzko. So
it was Oni Press, but
it was still not.
But I don't buy floppies anymore. If I read single issues, I'll do it digitally. I don't, I usually wait for the trade, and there's not a whole lot out there that interests me, and that's not me being like, well, look at me, I'm better than you because I don't read DC and Marvel. It's like, no, there's literally nothing at DC and Marvel that interests me at this point. Like
more independent. It's like we do a lot of independent stuff.
We'll do indie stuff, we'll do crowdfunded stuff, we'll do, even other publishers, Dark Horse and stuff like that. But manga has definitely eaten up most of our comics budget, for the last couple of years now. So it's making a lot of money over here in the States, but nothing compared to what it's making overseas. Now, it's interesting because, with the uptick in popularity and with people being shut in their houses and technology being available, piracy has been on the rise, and there's been a lot of discussion about, keeping people from torrenting and uploading manga scans, which, as far back as I can remember people doing scanalations like 20 years ago.
I do too, yeah.
But that was for stuff that was not released or not planned to be released here in the States. So in a roundabout way, it really didn't hurt a whole lot because it was like, well, these English-speaking people are not going to buy this Japanese comic anyway, and nobody's bringing this Japanese comic to the U.S.,
right.
So, and they kind of turned a blind eye, but now that it's become such big business over here, too.
Right, they're losing so much money. They're losing more money than the whole Western comic book industry made.
Yes.
That's what they lost, not what they made.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. This is coming from comicbook.com. Manga is becoming bigger by the day. It seems like that trend isn't about to stop. Despite some issues with oversaturation, the medium is thriving in Japan, and markets all around the world are buying in on manga. According to a recent update, it seems like piracy became an even bigger issue for manga in 2021. The report comes from the organization Authorized Books of Japan. As Kotaku explains, the group keeps tabs on manga sales both legally and illegally. ABJ has a running list of piracy websites that track stats for, and it turns out the list's collective page views went way up in the last year.
Well, probably because people are like,
locked in their houses. Yeah. And the weird thing is like you can get the Shonen Jump
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, like I love Shonen Jump. It's like all you can read for like $2 a month.
That's it. They're trying to make it as accessible as they can at an affordable rate, so they still get paid, and people are still going over and sailing the high seas.
Yeah. According to the report, the group's January 2020 report noted the top 3 sites being tracked brought in 12.5 million users. Now, you have to remember, too, and the Western comic book industry does this, too. You know, this is kind of erroneous thinking. You think that every person who reads a pirated copy of a comic book is a potential customer. And the reality is that if they weren't getting it for free, they probably weren't going to buy it. So statistically, I would say you could take that and cut it down to probably a quarter or a half. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like a lot, but it's still a
But they still got to go read it for free.
Yeah, yeah. By October 2021, the number shot up to 326 million. Clearly, that's a huge boost, and ABJ estimates the damage done by pirates totals to billions lost. In fact, they said the financial impact of manga piracy this past year was 4 times worse than 2020.
Yeah, that's bad.
The group estimated that $1.8 billion US was lost in 2020, but 2021 estimates suggest that 6.7 billion was forfeited from January to October.
Yeah, and if you even cut it down like by a quarter, like you said, or a half, that's still quite a bit of money.
Now, just to put this in perspective, the entire North American comic book market is 1.28 billion, and that's including manga.
I was gonna say they always roll that into it as well. Yes, count it, and they count like crowdfunders and stuff too.
Yeah, they're starting to count crowdfunding too. So I would say probably at least a third to a half of it's probably manga, crowdfunders, you know, YA graphic novels, that kind of stuff. But you can see that like just in stolen manga, 5 to 6 times that amount this year.
Right. So what would they make if it wasn't being taken?
Yeah, yeah. Clearly, manga piracy is thriving these days despite the medium's growing accessibility. Dropped licenses and paywalls are used to justify those who would rather read manga illegally than pay for it. In recent years, Japan's top manga publishers have formed a coalition, we'll talk about that, to go after piracy websites both domestically and overseas. One of the top piracy sites was toppled in 2019 when Mangamura was shut down. I've never been there.
Never have I, so I don't know what it is.
I don't steal my manga, I buy it. But other sites have tried to fill the void.
I know ones keep popping up.
Yep. As promised, publishers like Shueisha are going after the next generation of piracy platforms. We'll talk about that because there has been an increased effort, and in some cases, I think kind of ridiculous. They've been going to ridiculous lengths, but they've been striking YouTubers and different websites for showing more than just a couple of panels. I don't blame them when they're losing that kind of money. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not a good look with the fans.
Here's the thing, if they're not showing the whole book and they're just showing a little bit of the book, that might actually encourage people to go buy it. So in some way, it might be like the Beanie Baby documentary where they went after the people that were their biggest supporters. And in a way, they kind of did themselves in. So if you're starting to get bad PR and you're going after people that are, you know, promoting you, as long as they're not like overly showing, overly sharing, you might be cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah, and this is what I don't understand, because we have comic book channels out there, like I think it's Comic Books Explained or something, that literally the guy reads or read entire issues of Marvel and DC Comics, and he would narrate like an entire issue of a comic book. And he had like 1 million subs and he wasn't getting dinged for that. But guys like Totally Not Mark showing some clips from like Dragon Ball and One Piece, he's getting his channel struck. So now he's not going to do that kind of content anymore. But
well, if it doesn't fall into fair use, they can strike you for it.
Yeah, if it's not fair use. But my understanding was he was just using clips. But I think that they've gone...
Well, technically you could use clips.
Yeah.
You could run the clips into the fair use amount time-wise and then still ruin the whole thing, cover most of it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know this person in particular, so I don't know if that's what they did or not. I'm just saying technically you could argue that someone could do that.
They're really ramping up efforts. I know Shueisha was striking people's channels, and Toei now is striking channels, and I think it's because I guess in Japan there isn't such a thing as fair use. Like if you're using their stuff, they're allowed to strike it. And I think they've got lawyers out there, whatever, third parties going out there just looking for
probably
any content.
The studios here do.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten struck a couple of times. I don't understand it. You see all these YouTube commentary channels and they're like, you know, reacting to trailers, they're reacting to episodes of TV shows, and they're running an awful lot of footage of, you know, either a show or a movie, and a lot of it's like owned by Disney and stuff. I'm like, how are you not getting struck?
Yeah.
Because they would absolutely strike us for doing the same thing. I mean, we reacted to the She-Ra trailer, and we know we probably got flagged, but...
Well, I know you're saying that there was a bunch of videos that were copyright claimed, and some of the videos didn't even have the material in them.
Yeah.
This is what they do. They send these lawyers out, and we had it happen with us with, you know, because people didn't like that we were complaining about She-Ra.
Yeah.
So DreamWorks did it. But we've seen it before, like when we did videos with compilations of like parts of commercials or something. We did a live stream or something, and they were all striking it right and left because they were saying they didn't say they didn't use anymore, but these lawyers were out there striking the heck out of it, and that will happen.
Yeah, it was so weird because we were actually showing commercials that had been off the air for like 30 years. The advertising agencies that created these commercials
aren't even in business.
Yeah, they went out of business years ago, but somebody had the rights or something, and we would have. On that one video in particular where we had a bunch of like Halloween commercials, we probably had like 4 or 5 companies copyright claiming the same footage for the same thing.
Right. And the thing is, that's what happens. These lawyers, they're usually not the company themselves, these people they send out. And they'll go and copyright strike it. And like in this case, they said some of the things didn't even have that in it. They just struck everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a problem. It shouldn't be allowed to do that either.
Yeah, so but again, you know, this could boomerang back on these publishers. I understand why they're doing it, but you know, the fan backlash has been severe. I mean, even PewDiePie weighed in on the Totally Not Mark situation, and he was like, "This is a really bad look for you guys to go after this guy." That's just it.
You have to weigh it. Is it worth the copyright strike to the damage it's going to do to your reputation? Because as a fan, he was bringing people to to buy your stuff. You know, it could be argued that he was probably helping you sell more crap than you would have done without him. And then it just no matter what, it's just going to leave a bad taste with people, like a PR, you know, nightmare. You should have just left it alone.
Well, Nintendo learned the hard way. Nintendo, you know, they were copyright striking anybody that played their games on gaming channels, and they're trying to force them to join their MCN. So they got a cut, but they wanted a 50% cut if you're playing, you know, Mario or Zelda or whatever. And they learned the hard way because people were really pissed and they weren't covering their games. And so then what happened is you had a lot of like indie games that loved the coverage, like, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff like that blow up because people weren't playing Nintendo.
Right, because why would they? Yeah,
and what would happen is, you know, other companies that maybe don't care as much, or other independent publishers or webcomics people or whatever might be like, oh, you can cover our stuff.
Well,
sure.
It's short-sighted too, because like with the Nintendo thing, people would go to find playthroughs because they didn't know how to get past a certain section, or, you know, and that was actually helping Nintendo, you know, by people being able to play their games, or that they were telling their friends, and people were selling, you know, buying more games because they were going to go watch the videos they got excited about or saw playthroughs or whatever. Same here. It's just sometimes you have to weigh the pros and the cons, and I mean, if they were egregiously using your stuff, I can see it. But if it was just like a little bit here and there, and it actually helped you more than hurt you, I don't see the point.
Yeah, so I mean, look, you know, things are blowing up. They're looking at the amount of money being left on the table, and you know, there's such a demand for manga right now. I know we have a friend that works for a manga publisher, and he's like, we can't even get press time. People are begging us to publish more. We can't even get press time. So yeah, they're going to look at like everything as potential revenue lost, but.
Well, that's it. People want to read it. Yeah. You can't get the books because there's a shortage.
That could also
be. They're going to go, and the shortage was last year, and that's when they lost a lot. It's 4 times as much. It could be related to that. Yeah,
because I know, you know, some of the books, they were on back order indefinitely. I know Demon Slayer, they're like, you know, buy it now because you're not going to see Demon Slayer on the shelves again anytime soon. So yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be people were like, I just want to read the next chapter, and it's going to be, you know, 6 or 8 months until I can buy a book.
Now, to be fair, you could pay for those digital chapters still. You know, you didn't have to pirate it, but
yeah, you could.
But I'm just saying that could be part of it too.
I think you're probably right. I think that probably is part of it. But you know, here from Japan Times. Now, this is sort of the platform that Ken Akamatsu, the Love Hina creator, is running on. He's running for office in Japan. And part of it is because of the piracy, and part of it is because of the censorship. So it's kind of a double whammy here. But you know, manga creators are again, you know, concerned. They are, but they're talking about, you know, how much money is being left on the table. They said the picture quality of pirated versions seen recently is very high and almost on par with that of ebooks, and unauthorized works of some manga comics are found on the internet on the very dates when their official versions go on sale. This is the guy who works on Love Hina, noting that damage is particularly great for new and unknown cartoonists who are active only online with their work still not published in magazines. Akamatsu said, if such artists lose motivation, very entertaining manga, I think this is a bad translation, very entertaining manga works that would have appeared in the future could end up not being read. Keeping away from pirated works will lead to protecting talented artists. So I want people to enjoy manga and their official versions. Basically, they're lifting content, and if the financial incentive isn't there for the publishers, they're not going to get a deal.
And for the artists, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, and it's a tough industry.
Well, I'm like, people are going to draw it anyway. Because one thing I've learned is even if you don't make any money at it, people will still put their comics up. Because they desperately just want people to read them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at, Webtoon. Webtoon was built on the backs of, thousands and thousands of unpaid artists,
right.
hopefuls.
And then they turn around and just use it to get themselves deals and stuff like that and their friends. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a huge issue. I mean, it really is, no pun intended, but don't steal manga. Don't do it. That's our advice, because it does hurt somebody somewhere. That being said, again, the companies probably need to draw a line between people who are maliciously trying to, steal their stuff and, fans that just want to comment on the stuff.
Fans are trying to help you.
Yeah, so. All right, we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.